Good morning, everyone. I request you all to keep your mics muted and your cameras off unless we tell you otherwise. Okay, so I, Ramya, on behalf of the Department of Psychology, welcome you all to Discussion Forum 2020 on the theme #Download Relationships Navigating a Private Affair. I now request the department in charge, Dr. Sobita Kirtani, to kindly address the gathering.
A very warm welcome to one and all to the Discussion Forum 2020, #Download Relationships, Navigating a Private Affair. Since the lockdown in March, the multitude of webinars and online lectures has simply been overwhelming. Yet, we can't rule out the fact that this is the most efficient way to continue our work and routine activities, yet be safe in our own space. In fact, during the lockdown, it's the technology that has helped us maintain our sanity, letting us be in touch with family and friends. Mental health professionals too have been able to extend help through online platforms. Work and education have been possible thanks to technological advancements. Not to forget the rich source of entertainment available online. It is not that we did not use technology prior to COVID times, but the pandemic has necessitated that we maintain relationships online. Maintain social distance, but stay connected. That's the mantra for survival right now. That is how youngsters have managed to pull through during these taxing times. We all know that adolescence is a period when friends and romantic partners become a very important aspect of life. Exchange of messages and pictures are a given in any relationship, and technology plays a very important role in this today. Till here, things seem to be fine. Problems occur when relationships turn sour, when communications go viral, when saved pictures become threats and evidences. How do we regulate this phenomenon? How safe is the exchange of information? What are our rights to privacy and private conversations? This discussion forum is one such platform for youngsters to be informed about the art of navigating a private affair. We have with us experts from 3 different areas. Dr. Vilas Padhye, who will throw light on psychological aspects of online relationships. Ms. Sangeeta Naik, who will give us an insight into the technical aspect of safety of virtual communication. And finally, we have Advocate Seola Vas, who will equip us with the legal information about our rights to privacy. I welcome our speakers for the day and hope the participants have an enriching experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for so beautifully introducing today's topic to all of us. Now, without any further ado, let's begin with the speeches by our esteemed speakers for today. A few instructions before we begin. We'll take in all your questions after the speakers are done speaking and the forum is open for discussion. Till then, the chat box of the Google Meet will be disabled. However, for those who might join in through the YouTube live stream, in case we cross the 100 participant limit, they can email their questions throughout the talk to the email ID being displayed on the screen right now. In your email, just mention your question or multiple questions and name of the speaker that the question is directed to. If it is a general question not directed to any speaker in particular, you can mention so. I hope everything is clear. Now, I request Ms. Tanya Kenny, Assistant Professor, Department of Psychology, to kindly introduce our first speaker for today, Dr. Vilas Padhye.
Thank you, Ramya. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege that I take to introduce the first speaker for today, Dr. Vilas Padhye. Dr. Vilas Padhye is a versatile personality with interests ranging from academics and research to sports and wildlife. He belongs to the Maharashtra Education Service cadre of the state government and is currently posted as the Associate Professor and the head of the Department of Psychology, Elphinstone College, Mumbai. He is a recipient of the Government of Maharashtra's prestigious Administrative Reforms Prize, which is given once in 2 years to those employees who have worked extensively and made novel contributions in their respective fields by creating replicable systems of the governance. He's a psychometrician as well. He's developed the teacher assessment scale that's used to generate feedback of teachers from students and is widely used by the government of Maharashtra's Directorate of Higher Education in colleges across the state. He's also authored several books in general psychology, which are well received by students and prescribed textbooks at the university. Dr. Padhye has published 10 papers in international journals and has attended several international conferences. To top it all, he's also a resource person in statistics, psychometrics, research methodology, and SPSS, a very widely used software in psychology. As an administrator, Dr. Padhye has been on several boards and committees, such as drafting the vision statement of 2020 of the Aurangabad district, Government of Maharashtra's Ideal Teachers Award functions, Government of Maharashtra's republication of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's book Annihilation of Caste, Diamond Jubilee edition, to name a few. Last but not the least, our today's speaker is versatile in true sense. He's captained badminton teams, been a part of football and cricket teams, an ace swimmer, long distance runner, active in theatre, and also senior under officer in NCC. His love for wildlife is also utterly evident in all his clicks in his website. Dr. Padhye, we are truly honored to have you here and are eagerly waiting to hear from you. Without any further delay, I request you to take over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Am I audible? Just to be sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Very
because
clear.
technology is something that we just don't know when it would get ruined. Anyway, so let's begin with this wonderful session. All the dignitaries present from Parvatibai, Chowgule College of Arts and Science, Dr. Sobita, ma'am, the wonderful team leader here in charge of the psychology department, my co-panelists, Sangeeta, ma'am, and Seola Vas, who's a practicing advocate, and of course all the wonderful students here. Very good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to really congratulate Sobita, ma'am, for organizing such a wonderful and relevant discussion on this particular topic. And I would say I would express my gratitude for downloading me here. So it's really so nice of you to invite me. I'm so happy to be a part of it. Now, before I go into this topic, there's one thing that I would like to share with all of you, especially the young generation that we have here, all my wonderful students. There will be no value judgment over here, I assure you of that. I never do that, but just to make sure that I put this point across. Because what happens whenever you talk about the internet and these social networking sites and all that, it's usually what this young generation, they are like this only, like that only, they don't do this, it's this. No, we are not here to make value judgments. I assure you of that. So we'll go into this topic as students of psychology, as social scientists, and just try to analyze what exactly is happening and why things are turning out the way they are. So I'll begin with I'll try to throw light first of all on a few of these areas. I believe that's the way, things should be. That I try to give you what you say, an overview more or less of what's happening around, and then in the course of discussion, then again we move ahead. So let me begin with something like, what I would say is a relatively, new school, but going by the name, it sounds to be, a blast from the past sort of thing, evolutionary psychology. This field is, people are rather looking into this with a renewed interest nowadays. I'll just give you a couple of examples before we actually move into this, topic. Diwali was there, a few weeks back. Christmas and New Year Eve are around the corner. And you all have had this experience where, people enjoy bursting crackers. Ever wondered why you do that? I mean, what is the great fun? You actually, do what, burn the wick, or what do you call it, ignite it, and you just throw it away. You close your eyes and ears and then just wait for that bang to happen. And then you are like, oh my God, wow. So what's the big deal about it? Ever wondered why is this happening in 21st century? No matter pollution and all, these are different issues altogether. But why do we enjoy doing that? Those roller coaster rides. I mean, you pay money for what? To go up and down and round, and then everybody's screaming and shouting, and those bungee jumping sort of things. You climb a mountain, tie a rope to your feet, and you just jump into the valley. I mean, why are we doing all this? So if you, as students of psychology, reflect upon what Carl Jung had once said about the archetypes, the collective unconscious, we all have those remnants of our evolutionary past, what was experienced by our ancestors, those thousands and lakhs of years back. So today, bursting a cracker is like, because our ancestors were obsessed with these forces of nature. It was like, oh my God, lightning, thunder, and it was also, a potential threat, and they also out of that had great respect for that. Today, when you burst a cracker, it's like you feel that you are controlling these systems. You get that experience momentarily though, and then you're like, oh my God, wow, that was great fun. Something similar, we'll look down at relationships, as to why do we need relationships in the first place. Man is a social animal, man, woman, whatever humans are. Why do we need relationships? Have you ever wondered why? See, because in evolution, let's travel back, a bit of a time travel, a few lakh years back, when our ancestors had just climbed down from the trees and they were dwelling, in caves and all that. Humans were very weak. They still are, as compared to the rest of the species. Snakes could bite you, and scorpions, and all those animals, bears and elephants, tigers. What is it that helped us survive? It was staying in a group. So associations and relationships was an element to our survival. So we form relationships because that increases our probability to survive. Why relationships? Why not just a group of people? So I mean, imagine, let's say something like what you are in a theater, post-lockdown, of course, and unfortunately, just imagine a situation that a fire breaks out. What happens? There's chaos all over. There's stampede, and everybody rushes out, tries to rush out through, those couple of doors there. That's not really a group. There are no relationships. So everybody just wants to get out. But when something like this, unfortunately, were to happen, in families and all, it's more likely that, parents would first take care of their children and try to protect them first and stuff like that. So relationships always increase your chances to survival. Just being in a group in itself might not be enough. So you have to understand that relationships, these are things that we are, what, hardwired for that. It's like the software, it's there embedded permanently. It comes, with the product. So forming relationships and, forming those emotional bonds, because unless and until you are not emotionally connected, you won't have a relationship. You might call a colleague and, a boss and a subordinate relationship, but that's then just a name for that. A true relationship is where emotions are involved. So you feel that love, even jealousy for that matter, because someone who has more resources is likely to survive better, is likely to procreate, is likely to find a better mate, more number of mates, talking about, our evolutionary past. So that's, sets in jealousy. So all these emotions, they were necessitated, we needed that for our survival. Now the thing is, how do we know that we are in love or something like that? So here you have, neurochemistry that comes in. You have that shot of dopamine. That's a neurotransmitter. You must have read about it, I'm sure. So you get a shot of that dopamine, and then you are like, you feel, something that I want to do that again. Why do you keep on checking your Facebooks and Instagrams and, all those things? The thing is, when you post something, you want to come back 2 minutes later, and it's like a compelling urge. I want to check out how many likes I have. Oh wow, 2 minutes and 10 likes. That's good. You close it, maybe, try do a couple of things. 5 minutes later, there's again this urge. Again, you go back and you check. Oh my God, 30 likes. Wow, this is great. What you are experiencing at this point of time is something that, the rat in Skinner's experiment probably experienced. You all remember, a very basic first year experiment, the rat in the Skinner box. So the rat would press the lever and would get food. Yes, food was good, that was only enough to satiate the motive of hunger. But what comes along with that is those shots of dopamine. So no wonder we all are in a rat race, because there's hardly any difference. We do things that give us these dopamine shots. And then there is oxytocin, the love hormone. See, it has been actually tested. You might just, search the net and go in for a few papers, that when people are interacting with their, what we call as loved ones, the level of oxytocin actually has shot up anywhere between 15 to 20%. Within 10 minutes, the level of oxytocin rises. You are aware of this, the pituitary, posterior pituitary, I believe, anterior and posterior, should be posterior pituitary, that releases oxytocin. It has many other functions, but nowadays it's implicated in all these relationships and emotions and love. It's popularly called the love hormone. So the thing is, when all this is happening at the biochemical level, are we in a way equipped to deal with these newer situations that we call as, online, what, relationships and this and that, all that stuff? Are we? Because culture is how many years old? 5,000-10,000 years hardly. You talk about the what you call Mohenjo-daro, Harappan Valley culture, talk about the Babylonian culture, civilizations, I mean, and all that. Hardly 8,000-10,000 years old, max. And you have a baggage of evolution that is millions of years. So you might very well, imagine who has an upper hand over here. Now what happens is, with all this huge baggage, you enter what you call this virtual space. Now the brain is not equipped really, because internet is so new. I mean, probably these social networking sites were 10 odd years old maybe. So we are not yet equipped to differentiate quite between the potential threats and the way we should act and react and stuff like that, because we just get those dopamine and oxytocin shots over here. What happens is, we call ourselves very rational beings, oh, very intelligent and working in this company, and I'm got this MBA and this and that. And see, if all the people are so rational and intelligent and stuff like that, why is the internet so full of pornography? Why? The thing is, have we really controlled our basic instincts, those impulses? Or is it just another platform that has been, found out? And again, those very instincts and those very, innate behaviors, basic instincts, they come to the fore. That is something that you really, have to think about. What happens on the internet is, it gives you a false sense of security. Okay, what it does is, you can conceal your name, you think so, and your identity, post a different photograph or something like that over here, and you are sitting in a corner and you feel that nobody is watching me, and okay, I'm all alone, and whatever I text and share, it's between maybe whatever you and your friend. Actually the converse actually holds true. and our IT friend will go in and explain that potentially you are exposing every word dash dot comma to millions of people out here. So our brain is not able to basically understand this. What you know is, see, this is a physical environment, I'm here and I'm safe, and it's just between, my parents are not at home or something like that. I mean, just giving you, often examples. This false sense of security is something that comes, that blasts from the past. And you are not potentially able to realize that something, what you are doing is, potentially harmful to you. Okay. And then finally, I would like to talk about a couple of things, like, let's talk about the boundaries of virtual and real getting blurred, the real reality and the virtual reality. This can be put up in many ways, altered reality, simulated, and many things like that. But these alternate realities are something that are here to, really stay with us. We are satisfying so many of our needs online. It would not be a surprise that even our emotional needs are getting satisfied online. So we as humans learn that, oh, this is an oasis. You feel what thirsty, go and drink from here. So the internet suddenly becomes, the go-to place. Like Sobita ma'am was just saying, that we did not stop our lives. We stayed connected. The classes, the education, the companies, everything is working. So we all know the importance of internet, but probably we do not understand it to the extent that probably we should really be able to understand. The thing is, I'll tell you about, something called simulacrum. That's something like a Latin or Greek origin for that word, and it's a postmodernist, usage of the term. It's like you are creating realities, new realities are being created and kept in front of you, and it's like you have to choose between whichever reality suits you. And this is something that lies to the base of this whole thing that happens in this so-called surreal world. Once you accept this as the reality, you start living in a real world, and then you start trusting people, exchanging whatever your photos and mails and this and that, everything. For you, this is the reality. Okay, now how do you deal with that? The thing is simply by expanding your scope of understanding. Honestly, I'll give you one example. There are four friends, and they sit together, and they've been, consuming alcohol for the last 10 years. What happens 10 years later is one of them turns alcoholic. All right, three of them do not. So who is to blame? Is alcohol to blame? Can you ban alcohol? Does that solve the problem? I mean, I'm talking about what whiskeys and scotches and beers and whatnot. Or is it the person per se, the individual with certain faults, lacunae, something within me, myself, that actually make me an alcoholic and not the others? So the internet is something like that. There are so many people involved in relationships, but why is it that only certain people fall prey to that? So gullibility was always there. You never needed an internet for that. Okay, you have scams over here when somebody asks you for your PIN number, those credit card details, and people give away. But this is just a change in platform. This was always happening earlier. There used to be people, you've heard of these stories, probably read it, ask your parents. Someone comes home and tells you, I'm going to polish your gold ornaments and see, look at this, chakachak, wow, so nice, sparkling, and give it to us. And then they just do that sleight of hand, and they, give you the wrong stuff, and run away with all your gold ornaments. And then people are left scratching their heads. Oh my God, what happened? So people were always gullible. So they were there, and they are still there in real life. They are here on the internet also. So what essentially here is important is people with a low self-esteem. You may or may not like this, but try to understand this. People with a low self-esteem are always found to be the most active on internet. I'm not stating this something out of my own whatever prejudice or what you might call it, or observations, as simply as I can put it. These things are, well recorded. These are studied. People with a low self-esteem, they find that this is the place where you can actually, have an altered personality. So you all have probably read of these things in psychology. You have read of co-personalities, and not to the extent of split personalities or DID, dissociative identity disorders. I'm not going to that extent, but everybody wants to be something else. You have an ideal self, and this is the place that allows you to do that. So those people who do not have a very great self-esteem in real life, they are the ones who come here and try to show that whatever influence that they can. And this is where all the flirting occurs. This is where people simply get pleasure by manipulating, controlling others' behaviors. So the person is married and having a couple of kids and all, but is still posing like a teenager, and you fall prey to that. So this is something that looks good in films. These relationships. You've got a Mail. I think that was one of the earliest, as far as I remember. Tom Hanks wala movie. That was one of the earliest movie. Oh, so romantic! Wow, so nice. But that's again a surreal world. So these realities that are built for you, those realities and what you would call as the real realities are different. But unfortunately, these are merging, and there's not something that you and me, we can control it. What we can do is we can only control ourselves. So talking about relationships, relationships are essential in whatever platform, in whatever way they come. All right, they used to be pen friends. If someone senior here could recall from their own childhood days, yes, there was actually a concept of a pen friend. It was something similar to this. So these concepts existed. You just had a pen friend, and you'd keep writing letters to someone unknown. You're sitting there in Goa, and you're writing someone in Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore, someplace. And you actually had these pen friends who probably never met in the real life. But then there's always a cardinal rule that you have to follow. See, whether it's on the internet, whether it's on in a relationship in real life, or it is anywhere else in this real world, there are certain rules that you have to set for yourself. If you don't do that, I think you are exposing yourself to potential threat. It's like when you are changing a wire, what, a bulb or something, you're dealing with a live wire, you have to put on rubber slippers. All right, that's a cardinal rule. You have to stand on a piece of wood. We've learned that physics way back in school. These are rules that you just cannot ignore. Similarly, you have to put in certain rules for yourself. Now, if you allow me to say this with, what you say, a tinge of humor, it's the left brain and the right brain over here. The left brain is more rational, and the right brain is more emotional. Whenever you are in a situation and you have those what you call shots of dopamine and that oxytocin being released, the left is left numb, and the right almost takes over, and you do everything that is more emotional and gratifying, emotionally gratifying in nature. That's basically the base, I would say. The various points of views, you could call it dimensions, I tried to explore about relationships, online relationships. So I would like to ask the organizers, I could go ahead, but maybe then other points I could also probably discuss in the discussion later, the coming period, because I have two more panelists with me. And then we could also take question and revisit these issues, if that's all right with you.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for putting out so beautifully the difference between virtual reality and the real reality, and how we're supposed to deal with all of that. So thank you for that. Moving on, I request Dr. Golda Vas, Assistant Professor, Department of Psychology, to kindly introduce our second speaker for today, Ms. Sangeeta Naik.
Thank you, Ramya. And a very good morning to all of you present here for today's event. I believe a better understanding of virtual relationships would be incomplete without delving into the nuances of the technical aspects related to communication on different social media platforms. How secure or safe and private is our communication on these social platforms? To answer these questions and more, we have amongst us a professional in the field of information technology. I'm pleased to introduce to you Ms. Sangeeta Naik. At present, she is a partner at Digital Goa, a Panaji-based news and media company. She has also been honored with the prestigious M. Billionth Award South Asia in 2018. Ms. Naik has nearly 15 years of experience of teaching computer science at local, national, and international level institutes. She's worked as faculty in the Department of Computer Science for courses such as Bachelor of Engineering at Western Michigan University, USA, a twinning program with Sunway College, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Master of Computer Applications at Indraprastha University, New Delhi. Master of Science in Information Technology at our very own institute, Parvatibai Chowgule College of Arts and Science, Autonomous. Master of Computer Applications at Goa University. Master of Business Applications at Goa University again. And Master of Science in International Business at Nottingham Business School, Nottingham, United Kingdom. She's been a regular contributor to various local and national media, including the Daily Herald, Daily Lokmat, Herald, Prudent Media, University News, Computer Express, etc. She has also run a column on technology on Goa's popular daily, the Naveen Times, on topics related to information and communication technology. Ms. Naik is also associated with several projects and organizations. She is a core team member of Goa IT Professionals Group, GITP, from 2015 till date, Joint Secretary of Goa Rights to Information RTI Forum from 2016 till date, Managing Committee member of Child Rights in Goa, CRG, from 2015 till date, General Body member of Sangat from 2018 till date, Joint Coordinator of Goan Empowered with IT, GEIT, a project aimed at promoting IT in schools. On behalf of the Department of Psychology at Parvatibai Chowgule College, I extend a warm welcome to you, Ms. Sangeeta Naik, and I graciously invite you to address the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Golda. And thank you, Dr. Padhye, for that wonderful explanation of the chemical locha which goes on in our minds. And as you rightly said, it's all about expanding the scope of our understanding. So I will start with my presentation. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah. We're talking about download relationships, navigating a private affair, okay? And then I'm supposed to be talking about how safe, secure, or private our online communication is. So before I answer this question, okay, I would like to ask you how safe or secure it is to make way through this crowd in the COVID times. What do you feel? Is it safe? Is it unsafe? Is it whatever? If you have to do it, okay, then we have to wear proper gears. We have to maintain our social distancing, wear our mask, use our sanitizers, go through it, get your fish and come back. And in the process, if you happen to catch COVID, then take precautionary actions. So that is basically what my presentation would be taking you through a little in terms of going through unsecure environment of this kind, and what are the precautions maybe which you need to take to make your communication in the cyberspace a little more aware, kind of, and then if there are any issues, how to tackle those issues, how to handle those issues. So when I'm saying it's equally safe or equally unsafe to go into this crowd. It's in exactly the similar manner. It's equally safe or equally unsafe to barge, to share, or cyberspace per se is equally safe or equally unsafe. Okay, so you ought to know the dangers, take the necessary precautions, and then follow the necessary guidelines. And then, despite doing that, if you happen to catch up, or if you happen to fall in problems, then what are the precautionary? What are the ways in which you maybe report, maybe file complaints? Okay, that's what we are trying to just browse through, right? So, to begin with, I would want to give you one very simple example, very simple case actually, which kind of pinpoints, which kind of it's a classic example of how mishandling or careless handling of data can lead one into real problems. How vulnerable is the information that you share online? This example was shared by a cybercrime expert, Mr. Rakshit Tandon. So basically, the example which I'm trying to tell you is about you carelessly share information, post stuff, and then assuming that you are catering to or you are entertaining, as Sir rightly pointed out, we are used to thinking that we are talking to a person X or a set of X's and Y's, but actually in real life it could be so. Like, I'm talking to five different people in physical space, then I'm talking to 5 different people in physical space. But right away, when I'm actually technically, I'm talking to 100 odd of you in Google Meet, but actually I'm reaching out to thousands and hundreds and thousands of known and unknown people. So that is the thing which you need to somehow, as Sir was talking about, the expanding the scope of understanding. We need to, it's high time we start expanding our scope of understanding and know that I'm not just talking to 100 people who are connected with me through Google Meet, but my communication is just going beyond those boundaries to a much larger group of audience. So coming back to the example which I'm trying to talk about, a family in North India actually. This man, the head of the family, 45-year-old kind of a man. So what happened was he is a neo-rich actually. He was a neo-rich, and then very like he was buying things and he wanted to flaunt them. And what better place to do that than the cyberspace? So he used to go on Insta, he used to go on Facebook, and then whenever something new is bought, he will go and take a photograph and put it on social media, like a big fridge, a large fridge kind of a thing, and then a photograph with that goes on the social media, and everybody will be saying, "Wow, good, congratulations," and all. And then he buys a new car, and then the car kind of a photo he'll put, and then everybody will go gaga over it, and he will be so happy about it. So this goes on, like, and then at one point in time, he makes an announcement saying that he's going to, like, they're planning a trip to Vaishno Devi, Jai Mata Di. So when this announcement comes, then somebody says, like, okay, like, when are you going? Then another third acquaintance says, oh, who all are going? He's saying, okay, I'm going on so and so date, and then it's a 15-day trip kind of a thing. Okay, so who all are going? Then he says, like, now this communication is happening in public space. So who all are going? Everybody is going. Like, then what about Mataji? Then no, this time we are planning to take her also. She also needs a break. So the house would be closed kind of. So, and then what happens is they go to their Vaishno Devi trip, okay, Jai Mata Di, come back after 15 days, the house is robbed. It's not a hypothetical story. This was a story. This is a real thing which happened into a family's life, and literally the entire house was robbed, and lakhs of worth of goods and property got stolen, just because, in addition to the set of people who this person was interacting with, there are hundreds more who are keeping, who are spying, who are prowling, who are keeping an eye on this data and mining information from it, which is as per their convenience, and then taking actions which are detrimental to the information giver. So that's why that scope, expanding one's scope of understanding with reference to what happens with one's data is important. So when I'm sharing photographs, when I'm sharing text, when I'm sharing information, understand that this is what happens in an internet minute, okay? Millions of videos, millions of photographs, millions of products on sale in 1 minute. And this is a 2018 infographic. But by now, again, there would be a few more GBs, a few more thousand GBs of data added to that, and this is happening in 1 internet minute. And your photo or your text which you have posted could reach out to these many million, or half of these, or whatever, all of them also. So understand that your information, even if you are talking about somebody in a one-to-one kind of association through WhatsApp, through your Google, whatever, through your Facebook, that information is not secure, is not private, okay, is not safe. It is not safe. We have to be very, very clear about that. Okay, so just a few stats, like say 70% of the people, the youth are on Instagram, 20% are on Facebook, 98% are on YouTube. By and large, a large group of youth are using OTT, but then only the advantage there is it's a one-way kind of a platform. So your vulnerability in terms of your data going the other side is less. Okay, and this is how the social media users are growing in India. So basically, the reason why I'm trying to give you these figures is more because to give you a feeling of when you're posting information, when you're posting content, all these people have access to your work, your content in some form or the other, is what I'm trying to emphasize on. So whatever you do in cyberspace creates digital footprints. What you tweet, you post an Instagram picture, and then or you write something on Facebook, or you send information through WhatsApp. All these are your digital footprints. So unlike the footprints on the sand, on the sea, we get washed away, these footprints will remain literally forever. Okay, because when you are talking, like especially when you are going to the social media, your data goes and sits on the server. Okay, until and unless it is scrapped off and somebody goes and overwrites and takes extra efforts to delete it, but still there are mechanisms by which the information can be retrieved if somebody seriously wants to get that information and damage you. So just remember that your digital footprints will remain there. So at the spot of some emotional kind of feelings, or in anger, or in whatever, with jealousy, if you try to go and do things and then regret and take them down also, that's not going to help. What if, like, somebody, forget about the data mining part of it, or forget about the technical aspect of trying to retrieve deleted data. Something as simple as somebody could have just taken photograph of your for whatever information you have posted before you deleted it. So that copy remains, and that copy can go ahead. So your digital footprints, you have to be very, very, very conscious about your digital footprints. And then, as the slide talks about it, you can be yourself, but you have to be your best. Okay, it could be, as Sir was mentioning, it's a different kind of a persona also. Your digital persona need not be your own self, because that is what will be looked at uh, beyond your immediate time, or your immediate responses, or your immediate emotions. So that's why, be yourself, but be your best self on the net. The reason being that, especially many companies of late, when they're employing people, they would try to look at their social media profiles and try to understand the employee through what the person shares, or the way the person, the language which the person uses to interact with his fellows, or with his colleagues, or with his friends, with his or her whatever. In fact, certain colleges also try and look at the candidates' profiles. And then, in addition to that, over the years, okay, since these digital footprints would remain there somewhere or the other in cyberspace, okay, they could. And then there are hundreds of cases emerging in India wherein these digital footprints, okay, which were taken casually, have become a trouble point in relationships. Okay, so you have to be mindful of your online reputation. You have to be, somehow you have to tell yourself, you have to remember that the emotions you express, or the things you do in real life, you should try and avoid, consciously avoid doing those things in cyberspace. Okay, so another thing which just often what I would recommend is, like, keep if you're working on a project, and then you just want to connect with the group for a couple of days only, then just go, or for a couple of months or something of that kind, go in for disposable email accounts, because email accounts, it doesn't cost you anything, right? So you can straight away go and make some email account and use it, and then forget about it when the work is over. Or when you're talking about say personal relationships, keep a separate account. When it comes to your academics or your work, keep another separate account, and try and sort out your public and private life at that level. Another thing which I would recommend is, don't use social media credentials to register for or signing on third-party websites. Sometimes what happens is, you're trying to download something, or you're trying to go to a website to look at some PDFs or something, or presentations, and then they say, like, log in with your Facebook account, or log in with your email IDs, right? So for these kind of requirements, keep separate email IDs, and then don't log in with your Facebook or social media account. It's a strict and a straight no. Okay. Then when we're talking about connections in cyberspace, okay, it could be connections with known people, or connections with unknown people. Okay, so, but either ways, okay, the cyber crime in India is, and these, mind you, these are reported cases, okay, but unreported cases in parallel, thousands and thousands of unreported cases also go on, and there is a steady increase in the number of cybercrime cases. And then these cybercrime cases are, if you're talking about when you're talking about associations with unknown people, okay, that stranger danger. Remember the stranger danger. Like this, what you see on your screen, do you know whether it's a man or a woman? Do you know whether it's a young person or an old person? Do you know whether the person is from in your known circles or somebody from across the globe? Nothing is known about this person. Yes, in exactly the similar manner, any and every Facebook request that you get or a social media request that you get is as virtual as this. It's anonymous. What for example, for a Facebook profile to be created, what does anybody need? A photograph and an email ID. Yes. So just based on that, you start considering that this person is the same person. You try to, whatever he or she says he or she is, you start believing it, and that creates a large number of crimes or large number of emotional setbacks also, or depressions which are related to which happen in cyberspace, or frauds which happen in cyberspace are related to this concept of forgetting, are related to the reason behind it is that we forget that the person whom we are interacting with in cyberspace may not be the same as whatever he or she is claiming to be. So just a set of do's and don'ts. Don't believe everything that you read online. Okay. Another thing which I would like to again, every time you must have been in various different guidelines or security tips. You must have heard that no clicking on links in emails or posts or WhatsApps. The reason is because these are the baits. These are the baits used to make people or to take people from the secure environment that they are working in to some other place where they can be manipulated. Okay, so until and unless you are very sure about where this link is coming from, or where this request is coming from, avoid clicking on links. Okay, another thing is each and every social media platform has privacy settings. So if you are using Facebook to get connected with friends and all, then consider it as your private space, and then only allow people whom you are comfortable with. Okay, if you are a blogger, or if you want to have a public persona, and through your Facebook or whatever, through your social media profile, then I really recommend that you have two separate social media personas, one for your private use and one for the public use, wherein anybody and everybody can connect with you, and there you absolutely limit what you post in terms of your photos, in terms of your text, in terms of any other content of yours. In the public persona in cyberspace, limit whatever contents you are sharing, and in your private persona, you just see that whoever is connected with you is from your own circle. Okay, another thing is most of these social media platforms, including your WhatsApp, would talk about two-factor authentication. That is, it will talk about sending in OTP, or it would want you to know another PIN want you to have another pin and then enter another pin as the second level of authentication. So try and use these authentications to keep your data safe. Okay. Another thing which generally people would say, take it very casually, is webcam. If you're using extensively, like especially in these days when you're all learning online and all, try and then you're always connected with people. Okay. There could be somebody trying to catch hold of your whatever, or putting some spyware on your on your mobile or on your computer, and then trying to take over your personal space or your data. Okay. So so for in and taking your photographs without you knowing. So as much as possible, just keep a tape or something, and then just close that webcam of yours. Okay. And then when you're interacting with people in cyberspace, trust your senses. Okay. First and foremost, don't accept people requests from unknown people. If you have to, like, if you are enthusiastic about, or if you want to expand your circle beyond the known list, then you can accept unknown people's request, but then be on your guard. Okay. And then if the moment the person tries to go overboard, you can feel, you can sense that something is not wrong in this association, then discourage such associations. If they still continue, flag those, like each of those social media platforms. For example, Facebook, the post wise you can flag. If still things are not improving, then you can block the person. Don't think too much also. Don't let somebody post things or take you for a ride or go on messaging you or make you uncomfortable. Straight away block the person, and then if still problems persist, go ahead and report it. Okay. For all these, most of the social, in fact all the social media platforms have ways and means of doing this. A little bit of Googling could help you out. Okay. Like, but then all this is about, okay, people whom you don't know. But once you enter into a relationship, okay, we talk about the world goes rosy, right? That the dopamine which Sir was talking about is reigns supreme. And then you say that to be trusted is a greater compliment than to be loved. And out of trust, like, okay, it's like when I'm in a relationship, it's two persons and one soul kind of a thing. Whatever is mine is his. Okay, with those kind of mindsets, okay, this happens. Okay? In a healthy relationship, okay, your digital footprints get shared in a very intimate manner. So 70% couples share their passwords and pins. This data is Kaspersky, the antivirus company. They did an extensive worldwide study, in fact, and then they came up with these findings. This was in 2018, but by and large, this is the trend actually. So 70% couples share their passwords, pins. Okay, 26% share some type of intimate data on their partner's devices. Okay, and then 12% store intimate photos, 11% store intimate videos, and then they share it with each other. Okay, then even when it comes to financial data, it's shared. Then work-related data is shared. Okay. And then all this goes on the basis of trust. We trust each other. We trust each other as though like the way I would trust myself, I would trust my partner. And under the cover of the trust, okay, all this data sharing happens, and then we don't think. So when you are talking about when you are interacting with, or when you are sharing content, just remember that the scope of this content, if things go wrong, the extent to which this content can create or cause harm, okay, should always be on the back of your mind when you're trying to share or when you're trying to totally go by trust and then deal with information. So by and large, data shared digitally, maximum number of persons wouldn't mind sharing their photos and videos, and a considerable number of people also share their private and sensitive videos to other people, including their partners, almost 45%. And then people will also talk about sharing their whatever printouts of their driving licenses, insurances and all. So this data which is there in personal in public space, okay, if somebody really wants to get this data, retrieve this data, and cause harm to somebody intentionally, then it can be done. So you have to be very careful in sharing this information, sharing such kind of information. And why is, here's an example. I have never met your Sobita ma'am, but here I am on the Melbourne flight, the wheel with your Sobita ma'am, okay? Because we don't need to, we don't need to be whatever experts in with currently though with some very simple softwares also, data photographs can be manipulated, videos can be manipulated, okay? So and I'll just go to the next slide, and then so photoshopping is something which has become like it's become a child's play. So whenever you see something, whenever you read something, please don't believe it like with a blind eye, with your mind saying that no, if it is in black and white, it has to, if I'm seeing it on the computer, it must be true. No, okay? So similarly, the other thing which happens is how much time do I have, Sobita?
Ma'am, I think it's almost about time.
Okay. Yeah, then I will give me 5 minutes. I will just very quickly browse through, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to be aware of things like Facebook cloning, okay? In terms of your Facebook itself gets like somebody else uses your photographs and uses your friends list and creates another profile of yourself and then claims that it is you and interacts with your friends as though it's you. So in such cases, you can just make your friends list private. Okay, in Facebook, there is a method by which you can make your friends list private, and then go and that will not. So even if somebody clones your Facebook, if there are no the friends are not visible, okay, it will not be easy for the person to send in. But the reason why the person is cloning your Facebook is because he or she wants to interact with your friends and create problems for you. So that will not happen, right? So don't share personal information. The moral is don't share personal information in cyberspace until and unless it is absolutely necessary, and then keep a tab of that. Keep a tab of what you are sharing. Okay, then here, this person, this frail looking person on my screen, guess what he did? This person from Khanapur, on 4th of December, he created a fake Facebook profile of a person from Kurka and a lady from Kurka, and then asked money from another person from Kurka, and the perpetrator of the crime is in Khanapur. So and then right away there are so many softwares and simple methods by which and detailed online YouTube videos by which this can be done. Okay, so what we are talking about is define your digital boundaries. Like say when I take when somebody takes a photograph and then it's a group photograph, like everybody would be tagged. just think twice before doing it, because like this kind of data can just travel across and then can be misinterpreted, misused. Okay, then about your relationship status also, do you want to really go public with it? So when you are entering to your relationship, online relationship with your partner, whatever, so define your digital boundaries, so that okay, this we can do, this is something which is my space, and I would want to keep my space to my own self. Okay. Mm. Remember that once you post something, you just lose control over it, right? So in foreign countries and all, they are talking about digital prenuptial agreement to determine the custody of the data before it becomes a privacy problem. So these kind of issues are cropping up, these kind of things are coming up. Okay, so by and large, if we talk about crime, basically, then the fraud is the maximum amount of cyber crimes happen in frauds, in terms of financial frauds, or luring people into by sending them mails and saying you have won X amount of some prize or some gold or some goods, and then taking money from them. Okay, or going into credit card details and robbing people's credit card details and all. But when the other set of the other set of motives, okay, causing disrepute, almost 19, but this is the latest data by National Crime Records Bureau, okay, which talks about sexual exploitation, okay, personal revenge, political motivations, terrorist activities, anger, extortion, pranks, and causing disrepute. Okay, these are the various motives, and then the reason why again I'm pinpointing this is because you could be if you could be your whatever you share in an intimate relationship could go as part of personal revenge. Okay, could go as a cyber crime associated, could be used for cyber crime associated with causing disrepute. So when things go wrong, okay, generally people try to misuse the data which you shared. Okay, and then again, just one more thing is it's very easy to completely take over with a simple spyware on your mobile. I just take your mobile, and if for 1 minute in 1 minute I will install the spyware, and then with that spyware I will be able to monitor each and every activity which is going on your mobile. Just go to Google and check for a spyware to monitor mobiles, and 101 apps you will get. Okay, so that's it. So you, for these kind of attacks or for these kind of things, you need to be aware in terms of what the kind of apps or what kind of content is there, what kind of softwares are there on your computer as well as on your mobile. Don't take them casually. Don't allow people to use your devices. And then even when you allow people to use your devices, see to it that you cross check and keep a tab on what is happening with. I hope my this Seola would maybe talk about this. Otherwise, I would actually speak about this later on in the discussion part. I just want to talk about this revenge porn thing and a landmark judgment which was given by the West Bengal Session Courts. So this I will skip actually later on in the discussion. Maybe we could. Another thing just is plan your digital exit. Okay, so later on you can go through your slides. I'll leave it with ma'am. Okay, you have to, if you are coming out of an unhealthy relationship, you have to clear your digital footprints as much as possible. so that they do not create much problem for you later on. Okay, so and if things still continue to go wrong, okay, and then you want to report them, these are the local numbers. This woman helpline is there, which is recently launched. Then the cybercrime cell, and you can also report here on platform straight away. You can go and report your case, report the issues, right? So I think we could talk about a couple of more issues later on in the discussion.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing all that information with us and letting us know how to set digital boundaries, especially in a time where we are so predominantly online. So thank you so much for that. Moving on, I now request Ms. Aishwarya M. Babu, Assistant Professor, Department of Psychology, to introduce a final speaker for today, Advocate Seola Vas.
Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce to you all our last speaker for the day, Advocate Seola Vas. She has pursued her LLM degree and is practicing at the Criminal Council, Bombay High Court. 7 years standing at the bar at Bombay, advocate on record, original side, Bombay High Court. Her practice areas include criminal law, commercial law, constitutional law, and environmental law. Among the other matters, she has been on the defense team for gangster Abu Salim, Santosh Shetty, and smuggler Mustafa Dosa. She has appeared in PIL before Supreme Court for abrogation of Article 370. Represents PETA India, an internationally reputed NGO, and regularly appears before High Court sessions, session courts, and metropolitan magistrates in Mumbai for bail and anticipatory bail matters, NCLT for commercial litigation, in High Court under writ petitions. Currently, she is also a visiting faculty at NMIMS College, Mumbai, and teaches constitutional law. On the behalf of the department, I welcome you, Seola. I request you to present your views.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And one thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that I'm also an alumnus of Chowgule College. So coming back here and being able to speak is something of a humble experience right now. And also to be able to share the screen with other accomplished luminaries who have preceded me over here. That is Ma'am Sangeeta Naik and also Dr. Padhye. Thank you so much for what you've added. And hopefully I can do justice to why I'm brought over here. So being a lawyer, of course, we are going to talk a little bit about the criminal aspect of cyber security and cybercrime. So just to give you an understanding a little bit, I brought the books which we refer to. So this is what I'm going to talk to you about, but don't be too worried about it, okay? We're going to break it down. Now, in terms of what things you can do and cannot do, nobody can, in fact, dictate these things to you. When it comes to crime, there is already a presumption that the person who is a victim of circumstances, is a victim of somebody else's malicious activity, malicious intent. Okay, so I think even everybody knows now the discourse in general public is that we should not blame the victim. So of course you are a victim because you were duped. It doesn't mean you're foolish. You were duped because they know something that you don't know. They take charge of you and they lead you into delivering whatever items and whatever cash or whatever else that they want, these criminals. That is how they operate. Okay, so with that presumption that victims are not victims because they want to participate in the act or they want to or they are purposely foolish, with that presumption we'll go ahead. Okay, some of the offenses I'll just outline so that we can see how you can come out of the situation with a little more dignity and by saving some of your finances, okay, if it is possible. Once the thing has happened, then we have to go for the best case scenario. Before it happens, then there are preventive measures you can take. But as I said, I would not advocate for prevention because you have to live your life.
in online dating, self-expression is mandatory. It is it's not a mandatory, it is inalienable. Without self-expression, you cannot have your online dating. And all things that are linked to a physical relationship in the physical world are also, they also have to happen on the virtual field. So you cannot have a half-hearted relationship virtually. As it is difficult, isn't it? So now what are the problems that people face? Something that has come to light nowadays is a mutual relationship between a girlfriend and a boyfriend, a mutual relationship that goes sour later. It can go sour for any number of reasons. There's nothing different about something being virtual and something being offline. Okay, it can go sour for a number of reasons, but because of the unique attributes of a virtual platform, that is, you can record, you can capture images, because of that there is some added danger. Now let us not fool ourselves, these dangers are also there in the physical relationship. You know about it. You could be in a room with somebody you trust, and then they could record you. Now these recordings can happen either because you want to explore a different dimension of the experience, or it could be one-sided, that is, you had not consented to that videography, but it has taken place. Okay, so those things can happen there also in the physical realm and on the virtual realm. Now that it has happened, what do you do? Okay, so first and foremost, you have a right to privacy. This, you know. Why you have the right to privacy also I'll tell you, but you have a right to privacy, and there is section 66E of the Information Technology Act. Now the government of India had enacted the Information Technology Act way long ago in 2000, year 2000. Okay, this is exactly the same year where your Google pages were churning out more searches on the search engine. So it was exactly the time when there was a cyber boom in India, cyber boom all over the world, and therefore a requirement for legislation was felt. But if you look at the act also, it's slightly archaic, though it is of the year 2000, slightly archaic, because it does refer to things that were maybe a little unforeseen. Still, it is technically quite sound, I would say. Now in this act, they do address some of our concerns. They talk about privacy. Okay, there is protection for your privacy. There is protection against publication of obscene material. There is protection against pornography, against child pornography. Okay, so there are some of these things which are addressed in the act. Now, in terms of your online dating, whether it is a long-term relationship, a short-term, a medium duration, whatever relationships you have online, you have protection by law. Now, everybody knows what it is easier said than done, and what is in theory is not so in practice, because everybody also knows that we have all these protections. You also have a law that says thou shalt not murder, but still, do we have crimes or not? So nothing is a guarantee. And even justice, some may say after the thing has taken place, where is the real justice? Okay, there is punishment, but is there restitution of my reputation? Is there restitution of my, am I restored to what I was previously? It may not happen. But in law, we have the concept of compensation. Okay, and that is also covered over here under this act. You don't necessarily have compensation in terms of other crimes. Somebody comes to your house, there is house breaking, there is trespass, they loot. There might be recovery. You catch the robber, there might be recovery, but not necessary. So you are not guaranteed to be compensated in terms of when somebody trespasses into your home. But there is a guarantee of compensation under this Information Technology Act. Okay, so you have section 66E, okay, which talks about violation of privacy. In section 66E, if there is any kind of violation of privacy, you have imprisonment of up to 3 years. Means it is 0 to 3 years. It can be much less than 3 years also. Okay, and we look at what is privacy. So for that, I will directly refer to the section. Okay, so section 66E, punishment for violation of privacy. Whoever intentionally or knowingly captures, publishes, or transmits the image of a private area of a person without his or her consent, under circumstances violating the privacy of that person, okay, shall be imprisoned for a period of up to 3 years, and with fine of 2 lakh rupees. So here is that point of compensation I was talking about, which is not there in many other laws. You might say that, well, you do hear of compensation time and again, you know, that is government organized compensation. The government will say ex gratia 10 lakhs, ex gratia 5 lakhs, but it is not compensation provided by the statute. Here there is compensation provided by the statute. I'm using the word compensation, but it's actually a punitive measure. So 3 years, 2 lakhs is the fine for breach of privacy. And what is this privacy? What are they talking about? It is not privacy in terms of anything else, but something of obscene nature. Okay, because they have defined over here private part. They have used the word private part of the human body. Okay, and then they have further gone on to distinguish, describe what is a private part. So all the things that you can imagine right now are coming under that. Okay, private part in the human body. So if you do something to capture, that is, you know, you click it, or you make a video of it, and then you transmit also. If you transmit, it is still part and parcel of this crime. Okay, right to privacy. So capturing, transmitting, these things should not take place. If your private part is captured or transmitted, Section 66E of Information Technology Act. Okay, this is the kind of complaint you can go forward with. I'll tell you where you can complain also. Now that is in terms of privacy, and privacy now is between which two people, that also has to be defined. And right now the law is not 100% settled on that. For instance, one might say that a caregiver and a child, there is no privacy between them. No, there's no right as such of the child to sort of make a complaint against the parents. There are certain circumstances, but as such, the right is not this defined. Okay, then spouses. There is a case which I came across, which is very recent. It is ongoing right now, where the husband has taken a video of the wife while she was indulging in porn. He has taken a video and she had disrobed in that video. Now, what happens over there? Does he have the right to take that video? No. Merely because he is a spouse does not mean he has the right to take that kind of video of his own spouse. But at the same time, there is an element of togetherness in that relationship. It is a husband-wife relationship. So would she be covered under this protection of privacy? We don't know. The thing is, it is an opinion. It is my opinion that she's covered. But at the same time, we don't know because the law is not settled. All right. Settled means there is no court ruling which definitely says it is this way or that way. So we keep discovering the law also. We keep interpreting the law also as we go. So it is sometimes a battle of opinions, we say. Now, so that is in terms of violation of privacy. Then you have the element of consent also in the same section, where they're talking about with or without, with his consent, okay? Without his consent, without the person's consent. So which means that if you had consented to your privacy being taken away, then you don't have the protection of that law. But if you had not consented to your privacy to be taken away, then you very much are protected by that law. What are the circumstances when you will give this kind of consent? Let us take, for instance, your Snapchat or your social media. Okay, on the virtual field, that is what makes sense. And on the virtual field, you might engage in some kind of chats or some kind of sex chats, etc. So what happens over there? You had given consent, but only for one individual to view you, not for it to be viewed in public. Privacy is exactly the opposite of publicity. Okay, so private act on one hand, which does not mean that it has to be a solo act. Private act means it can be an act along with another person, for another person, for exhibition to another person, even a group of people, but it is still private. It immediately goes into the realm of public when it is transmitted. Okay, so first and foremost, you should not have given consent. That is that, you're not supposed to give consent for the storage of this material. But once you have given consent for the storage of this material, you would have not given consent for the dissemination of this information, to distribute it among a group of people. So what happens is, it is seen, this is a well-known, not well documented, but well-known thing that's happening nowadays, where girls and boys in relationships, they may, store information which is exchanged in privacy and with trust, and then, building on what we were talking about earlier, when something goes sour, or even if it doesn't go sour, just like that, for whatever reasons, this kind of information can be leaked. So many times you hear about those MMSs being leaked. What it is a circumstance like this only. So merely because the victim has given consent for the recording does not mean the consent has extended to the dissemination of that information. Okay, so here you can file a criminal complaint for a breach of your privacy. Okay, so there is section 66E. This is one of the things you can do. Now you also have section 67, 67A, and 67B. Okay, 67B is related to child porn, so we need not delve into that much, because anyway the government has also tried its hardest to ban child pornography websites. So there is a good deal of implementation of 67B. Plus, the imprisonment is very rigorous. It is 5 to 7 years, which is one of the higher sentences you see in law. 5 to 7 years, and 10 lakhs is the fine. So in that sense, I think it is quite well covered. But we are going to talk about, for our purposes, we are talking about online dating and all. So we're going to talk about section 67 and 67A. Okay, this is covering that. It's also covering what I was talking about earlier, leaking of MMSs. See, the word leaking itself shows that there is no consent. Had it been consent, then you would be distributing it properly, no? It would not be called leak. Okay, but leak is still a term that we use for our general language. In legal parlance, we call it disseminating or transmission. Transmission is the official word used. Okay, so publishing obscene material, publishing, transmitting, disseminating obscene material. That is section 67. Now, what happens when you transmit obscene material, and what is obscene material? We will look at the section itself for that. So punishment for publishing or transmitting obscene material in electronic form: whoever publishes or transmits or causes to be published or transmitted in the electronic form any material which is lascivious or appeals to the prurient interests, or it is in effect in such that it tends to deprave and corrupt persons who are likely or having regard to all relevant circumstances to read, see, and hear such material. So the language of the statute itself tells you that where this kind of material, this kind of, there is an image which has something on it which can be obscene, which can be seen as obscene to the masses, then that material, the transmission of it, is coming under section 67. This is different from porn, by the way. Okay, porn is under 67A, and it is very clearly mentioned, anything that is a sexually explicit act or conduct. Okay, 67A talks about sexually explicit act or conduct. So how do we distinguish porn and non-porn? Porn would be where there is the action. It can be pre-action, it can be post-action, it can be during intercourse, but it is an action. Okay, whereas something like just an image of a nude person, okay, and that person did not know that image was taken, an image of a nude person, or some kind of image which is depicting that person not nude, but then is indulging in something, but just an image. Okay, that would be under 67. So not only porn, but other obscene material is also coming under this Information Technology Act, and you are protected from that kind of image of yourself going out there. And it is in your interest, because reputation is based on which everything is built in society, isn't it? Your ability to earn money, you not being ostracized and thereby having access to resources, this is all linked to your reputation. So reputation is tried to be protected here under the Information Technology Act. So the sections, you don't need to remember, of course, but what you need to remember is that your privacy is protected. If somebody says, well, your privacy is not protected because you were in a relationship, so there is no privacy over there between both of you, there is no privacy. No, that is a misunderstanding of the fact and of the law, because privacy means it is you first for yourself, and then privacy in respect of only a certain act between you and that other person, or you and that group of people also. Okay, but it is that you had already defined it. So when something goes outside that definition of privacy set by you, then it comes into that public realm. Once it is in the public realm, you have rights. Okay, so there is that. So that is something that I wanted to tell people, because often they may not feel empowered, because they may feel that, oh, it is not really an issue of privacy. I myself had indulged. No, you are entitled to legal protections. Now, so there is privacy, and then there is also obscene material. So privacy is one thing. It can also be your recording of your voice, but obscene material is, you know, image wise. Okay, so that is why it has to be read together. Okay, and obscenity means exactly as I told you. In Snapchat, if you are exchanging some information, or some other social media platform, you're exchanging some information, that information can be stored. And I think some of the preceding luminary speaker over here had also told us that nothing is safe online. We don't have any safety. To that also, I will add that you have that intermediaries in IT. Intermediaries are your platforms, social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, all these people. All these entities are called intermediaries, and intermediaries have 100% exemption. 99% exemption. Okay, what it means is that if something goes wrong, nobody can prosecute these intermediaries. So they don't have to take any extra precautions, isn't it? They do have guidelines, they do bring down posts, yes, but that is self-regulatory. We are not forcing them. India is not forcing them. India has exempted them. So because of that, now you are in double danger, because you cannot force Twitter to remove something. I mean, they will remove something which is obscene. That is their guideline anyway. But there is no Twitter head to prosecute. You know, so there is no criminal liability on them. So because of that, it becomes a little hard, because you have to work. You cannot make them work hard. Okay, you have to work hard. So that is a criticism I have of that intermediaries have been given a lot of exemptions. But we are trying. I mean, there is lobbying for that to change also. Okay, so you have that in terms of distribution of obscene material. Now, this is the protection you have. Now, what happens next? This is not the only thing. You know, Information Technology Act is not the only thing. There is now, very fortunately, we have the Indian Penal Code, and the Indian Penal Code gives you much more protection, or rather gives you a way in which you can proceed. Okay, so under the Indian Penal Act, you have defamation. You know, most of you know what is defamation. You can go under defamation, you can go under criminal intimidation, and you can also go for issues of sexual harassment. The events we spoke about, the episodes we spoke about, are exactly coming under this realm, isn't it? You are in a relationship, whether a trustworthy relationship, long term, short term, medium duration, whatever it is, you're in that relationship and you have exchanged some information. I'm talking about even if it is not a girlfriend, boyfriend, if it is just some random stranger, but you engaged in some kind of relationship, okay, short term. Even in that kind of a situation, you had acted within your rights. When you acted within your rights, then there is a duty of the other person, and there's a duty of the state also, state of Goa, state of Maharashtra, whichever it is, the state's duty also to protect those rights, because you acted within the rights. You know, you did not go beyond. If the law said that you cannot disrobe in front of 10 people on the beach, then you've not done that. Milind Suman, what he did, he was running on the beach naked. The law anyway says you cannot do that. Expressly, the law says you cannot do that. Okay, there is one section 294 of IPC that is dealing with public nuisance and obscenity. So he breached that. Now, once he breaches that, what happens? He's not covered under the protections of the law. Okay, no, but you didn't do that. You have interacted personally with known persons or even with strangers, but knowing them to be certain persons. So you are protected under the law. Now, what happens is when this person is saying that they're going to transmit something and there is a reputation issue, then you can also try and combat that by saying or by trying and filing some kind of criminal case which will cover you under the law of defamation and also criminal intimidation. When somebody is telling you, for instance, that you have to continue relationship with me, you have to continue sexual relations with me because I have this video proof of yours, correct? That also happens. Then what do? Now there is some nature of criminal intimidation that you are undergoing. You cannot escape it. This has happened also. This is a well documented thing. Okay, so you have to deliver those sexual favors. So how do you get out of this situation? Because now it is no longer consensual. Now it is criminal intimidation. So you have sections 503, 507, 50, yeah, that's it, which will deal with criminal intimidation, which will tell you that you can go to the police and say, I am being harassed by so-and-so person. They are criminally intimidating me to deliver sexual favors. Additionally, you can also go under section 354 A part 2, subclause 2, which talks about sexual harassment because you're being harassed and sexually. So that is a crime which is quite different from other notions of sexual harassment, and it does not have to only be physically; it can be virtual. Okay, so these are some of the offenses I wanted to outline. If you are a minor, then even you have even more protections. That is to say that you have sections 11 and 12 of the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. This allows you also to make a criminal complaint about sexual harassment, section 11, okay, sexual harassment of children below 18. This also helps prosecution to be speedy because this POCSO Act, it gives you speedy disposal of matters. So it is treated as something much worse than generally other kinds of crimes. Now, those are the crimes in general, those are the offenses in general, but what do you do with all this information? There is a legal principle that we talk about in the Constitution of India, Article 32, which says which is founded on the principle that there is no right without a remedy. Now, what great it is if you know that there is section 66E and section 503 and etc. What are you going to do with that? You can only do something with it if there is a mechanism for you to do something with it. So we have that mechanism also. We have criminal courts, okay, and you can go to a magistrate, you can make a complaint, you can go to the cyber crime cell and make a complaint, and they are duty bound to register that complaint. Some crimes are the ones that they have to register. Some crimes are the ones that they cannot register. Okay, in legal terms we call it cognizable and non-cognizable. Cognizable is anyway a nice psychological term, so you're well acquainted with it. So those crimes which are more grievous in nature are generally speaking cognizable crimes, which means that the cops can take action. It's no problem if the cops cannot take action. So some of the lower level crimes, like even this violation of privacy, it's considered a lower level crime. So cops may not be able to take action. So what do? Doesn't mean that there is no remedy. I told you, right without remedy is a null and void right. But here your rights are not null and void. There is a remedy. Remedy is you can go to a magistrate. In Goa, you would go to a judicial magistrate of the first class. Okay, and you can make a complaint. You can make a handwritten complaint. You can make an oral complaint. They are duty bound to convert it into the right format and give you justice. Okay, of course, it's always better that you go to a lawyer. Now, some cases that I, of course, also want to talk about are, I told you about the videography of spouses. There's another case that I came across where there was a girl on the train and somebody had taken a picture of her. And she was wearing a low-cut blouse and all that. So this male accused thought that he could take a picture, and he circulated it in his WhatsApp group. Now, she was very distressed and she went to the railway police and she made a complaint. They came on board and they were doing nothing about it. Okay, they were just like, jostling around. They were doing nothing about it. And I was present over there and observing the ongoings. And just at that time, I told them that they can confiscate that material. They can merely just simply confiscate that material, but they were unwilling to. They were not sure of the law. They were not sure whether they can take cognizance, etc. So I took that mobile. I said, now I'm a third party, which means that actually I impressed myself in that matter needlessly, but I did so. I took that, I confiscated that mobile, and I said, now let them come, let them go for a case of theft against me, and then we'll see what happens. They didn't want to do that. I don't suggest that you all do that, because this is more like a tug of war. Then I also said, let's destroy this and let him then, come and come against me. But they did not want to do that. Then finally, I told that girl, you keep this in your pocket and you go to the police station directly, submit it at that police station, the mobile phone, submit it at the police station and ask the police to confiscate it legally. Okay, now that is the right way to do it. When you find out that somebody has some image of yours, some material of yours, remember that the cops under section 80 of this Information Technology Act, they can seize and seal those computers, then data devices, mobiles, whatever it is, discs, whatever it is, okay, they can seal that. So you have to go to the cyber cell, make a complaint, say that this is the person, this is where they live, and steal their material. And the cops will take that kind of action. You can yourself go take that phone, take it to the police station. There is no illegality in this. Now, the problem with all of this is only one. I could not help another particular client who came to me because he did not want to go to the police station. I cannot take the law in my own hands. Just as I told you earlier in the previous example, I was trying to, play a tug of war. But it is unlawful. It is not legally permitted. We cannot take law in our own hands. Therefore, we need the cyber cell to step in. But what happens when your parents or you're worried about society, isn't it? You're worried to tell your parents that some boy has my nude picture, some girl has my nude picture. What do you do then? Then that is where we get stuck, because the law tells you you can do this, but you have to have that bravery, or I wouldn't call it bravery, but this, you need to have that courage to go ahead and get it done. Remember, as I told you, you are the victim. I don't actually, I'm not a propounder of disempowering anybody, but victim in the sense that you got duped. This is not your fault. Okay, that is where you have to take your parents into confidence, because they are the best people who can make a complaint. You have to take them into confidence. You can also go on your own. You don't need your parents. You can go on your own, make the complaint to the police. You can contact a lawyer. You just find anybody online on Just Dial. You find that person, go to the police. Sometimes they will take some charges. You go to the police. You must do it. Because now there's one more thing. It is not just the offense in itself, an attempt to commit the offense also. Not just that, as I told you, criminal intimidation, I have your picture, I'm going to blackmail you. Not just that. Before it happens, when they try to take your picture, that is also an offense. And guess what? In that offense, the punishment is exactly half of the real offense. Okay, so when there is an attempt, that person is going to have to serve 1 year imprisonment, 2.5 lakhs of fine. So there are real consequences. Teach them those real consequences, I say. Okay, so these are the things that I wanted to leave you with, a message that there are laws. You must take advantage of these laws, and you have to set the example, because otherwise this doesn't change. And yes, breach of trust is there. Your relationship ends, your relationship fails, but you have to protect your dignity also to an extent. So that is up to you only. And just take your, I don't know how you do it, the psychologists will tell you, take your parents into confidence and get that justice for yourself. Okay, so that's what I want to end with.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for so wonderfully telling us about all of our privacy rights and so much that we weren't aware of. So thank you for that. After all the points that all our resource persons touched upon, I'm sure that the audience must have a lot of questions that you would want to ask them. So here is your opportunity. The Google Meet chat box has now been enabled again. So all those who have questions can type it out in the chat box. And along with the question, also kindly mention the name of the speaker that the question is directed to, so that they can answer it accordingly. If it is a general question not directed to any speaker in particular, kindly mention that. So I hope everything is clear. I now declare the forum open for discussion.
Hi, can I ask?
Yes, please.
Okay, yes. I have a question for Dr. Vilas.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, go
am
ahead,
I-
please.
yes. Okay, we have all spoken about the risks of having online relationships and what can go wrong, right? But recently, like in our generation, we see that social media accounts and talking online with the person that we like has actually increased like uh, the bond has become all the more better because we involved in a lot of self disclosure, so we tend to tell about our whereabouts or what we are doing throughout the day, so the communication is constant. And there is, like, sometimes we share something or tagged photos and our friends stories that also allows self disclosure, so the our partners know much more about us. And I think that helps. Also having a screen, it helps relationships today. So can can you talk to us about the- how online relationships are good as well? Like, it's not only risky, but there are multiple benefits of it, right?
Yes, Neha, I completely agree with you. And I said, initially at the very beginning that I'm not going to post any value judgment over here. I'm not really inclined to say this is right and that is wrong. There are many facets to it, say, for example, feminism. So why should always girls, be the subject of all the scrutiny and, whatever the anger of the society, that why did you do that? So there are so many facets to it. But the thing is, I'll tell you, people are more inclined to talk about dangers rather than the beautiful things around. Now, that's again human nature. See, you are strolling in a park, and you see all the beautiful flowers, and you say, oh, look at that sweet flower, isn't it good? And people around you, let's say strangers, they'll say, hi, yes, it's good. And you say, oh, look at that fountain, isn't that so nice? And after some time, people will say, why don't you enjoy your own life? Let us enjoy what we want to do. But then you start screaming, snake, snake, snake. What happens? Everybody leaves their flowers and birds and cameras and rushes into you. Where is the snake? See, why does that happen? Because people see, there's this collective danger, a collective threat in that. So you have to understand, we are not here essentially to say that social media is bad or something like, you should not have online relationships. No, no, no. We are not here to say that. The point is, we just have to be careful. That is the only, point that we would like to put across. So does that help you? Well, yes, it definitely does help. You can always form some wonderful relationships online. You can have some very healthy relationships online. And the point is, the fact of the matter is, these social media platforms are going nowhere. They are just going nowhere. All right, so they are there, they are a part and parcel of our lives. The only thing is, since our childhood, at our own childhood level, we had something like a debate competition on science as a boon or a threat or something like that. Computers are good or bad for you. So it's only the thing that, you evolve to a level where you are now discussing whether online, relationships are good or bad for you. So the thing is, these things, they crop up. Culture, society is dynamic, it always changes. So at this given point of time, for your generation, this is the issue. Our generation, there was some other issue that people were talking about. So I would also agree with you that online relationships can be perfectly healthy, they can be good, they can be supportive. There are a lot of forums also online apart from this one-to-one relationship, wherein, like Alcoholics Anonymous, you must have definitely heard, somewhere read in your psychology textbooks. There are so many forums where actually support is provided. But then the thing is, it's a catch-22 situation, like, whether you're going for it or you don't going for it. Now that is, Neha, where the entire discussion ultimately comes down to. Yes, you have so many wonderful legal protections that, Seola was mentioning about. Yes, I completely agree with that. But what we usually do is, and, with all due respect to Seola, I was born in a family of lawyers, Seola, so I have a great affinity, towards law. I mean, lawyers, courts, people run away from that. But for me, I've grown up watching that. The thing is, prevention is better than cure. So the first thing is prevention, and if at all it does not happen, then you go to the remedies. So from that perspective, Neha, yes, online relationships can be good, they can be healthy, they can be supportive. But the thing is, where to draw that line, that is something that you have to decide. Okay, so I'm not here to criticize online relationships. Yes, they can be really supportive. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Yola, please go ahead.
Yes. So there is one query come in terms of, yes, of course, what happens if they have already disseminated the information, you've destroyed the mobile, but then the information is there on WhatsApp or some other source which is encrypted or not. Yeah, that's correct. So that is where your your right to privacy plus some kind of defamation also comes into the picture. Remember that defamation means defamation not only of some event that has taken place, but also destruction of your reputation. So in the instance which I shared, where there was that lady who had been traveling in a train, merely wearing a low-cut blouse does not entitle anybody to brand her as somebody who is who is on the brink of prostitution per se, because in other words, what that person was trying to do, the offender over here was trying to do, was exactly that, was trying to show her as someone who was not a decent member of society, isn't it? So there she has these options of going to the police, going under section 499, 500 of IPC, and preferring a complaint of defamation. Sorry, I have to correct myself. Remember that defamation, you can only go to a magistrate, that is your JMFC, Judicial Magistrate First Class. You cannot go to the police for defamation. Be that as it may, sure, you can go to the police, or sorry, to the police, and then the police can direct you to the magistrate. Okay, there is no issue with that. That is one of the things you can do. Secondly, you can go to the cyber cell. We have the cyber cell, either it is in Ribandar or in Donapal. I know that in Donapal you can definitely make this kind of complaint. Okay, physically you can go there. You can physically go to any nearest police station. There is a phone number which was also distributed by our previous speaker, Ms. Naik. So that's the correct phone number. It ends in 203. You can phone that number and you can say that so-and-so person has my image. They have taken it without my consent. There is a breach of privacy. Cyber cell will act. Okay, their phones will be confiscated. Once their phones are confiscated, they will also confiscate other phones, provided that they find sufficient reason to confiscate other phones. They will institute prosecution against this person who has disseminated your information. They will be this person will be responsible for all those images which are out there. But look, there is only so much you can do. Once the image is out there, it is the internet. It is the darkest place and the brightest place. So being the brightest place, you are going to be in front of everybody. Being the darkest place, you are going to be in the pockets of everybody. So that is something that we have only very little control over. You are well aware of that. But since there is a breach of your privacy, since an offense has been committed, there are remedies to it. Rather, I can say reliefs to it, but there is no such remedy. There's no remedy as such, okay, for restoring you to your previous original position. But the function of this kind of prosecution is that people come to know you are not wrong. Okay, people come to know you are not wrong because your prosecution becomes known to people, isn't it? It becomes known that Seola Vas prosecuted one person who took her image. So then after that, your reputation sort of gets restored in the eyes of the fair-minded people of society. It will not get restored among the more prurient persons of society, because those are not the persons who are within the fringe. They are outside the fringe. Okay, that is something you have to assure yourself of. Beyond that, I cannot say, but legally speaking, the police will be able to compel all those people who have received that information, who have received that image, to delete that image. There's also another thing that I want to say, that once you are in possession of an image which you come to know has been received by you without the consent of the person in that image, okay, that also is coming under section 66E, right to privacy, okay, of Information Technology Act. So if I am told by the police that you have the image of this lady, and it is taken without her consent, you are required to delete it. If that kind of communication comes to me, I am bound to delete it. If I don't delete it, I can also be arrested. My mobile can also be confiscated. Okay, so this is how that law will progress. One more question has come.
Thank you.
Why is, yeah, welcome. Why is there a major discussion in terms of right to privacy between spouse in terms of consent, especially in terms of circulation of online matter? And where do we start to properly define this consent and privacy legally? Okay, good question, but I don't know whether I completely understand it. In terms of spouses, there is implied consent, isn't it? For many acts, you must have come across the discourse which is popularly coming under the subject of marital rape, where they're saying that marital rape doesn't exist simply because the premise is that you are entitled to conjugal relations. They're called conjugal relations, like it or not. You're entitled to conjugal relations, and consent does not have to be drawn every single instance. So it is implied consent which is underlying throughout that marriage. And in the like manner, also in terms of privacy, there is no question of breach of privacy, because between wife and husband, you will change in front of each other, you will do many, you live together, so there is that, again, privacy is out of the picture. But what happens when there is something other than privacy? When I say other than privacy, means there is some publicity. Okay, so your image is taken and transmitted outside that marriage. So it is not now only that the husband or the wife is the consumer of that image and that video, or that photo or that recording, audio recording. Okay, so now it's not that the consumption is not only within the marriage or the civil union, the consumption is outside the civil union. So then, or forget civil union, between a loving relationship or otherwise. So the consumption is not just inside that protected zone, but it has gone outside. So now you should be able to prosecute your wife, even your husband, even for that kind of breach. But I have to also be honest that it is not going to be well received, because remember that law is not it's not something outside society. One of the sources of law is customs, usage, societal norms. These are the things from where law comes. Law is, after all, the will of the people. And where the will of the people is there, it means that we have to go by that. Okay, so that being the case, it's very hard to prosecute your own for possessing your video. But if the spouse were to disseminate that video or image, then you could prosecute that spouse. It could also additionally be a ground for divorce. Yeah, there are more questions.
Yeah, I'm taking the one for me. One which I got is, we got a notified message in WhatsApp that the text messages that we send are end-to-end encrypted. But you mentioned that even the information we share there is not fully safe. How is that? Now the issue is encryption of messages or data from WhatsApp is like when I'm sending a WhatsApp message or data to somebody else, okay, on the way it's encrypted and sent to the receiver, and it's decrypted at the receiver's end. So when the data is being transmitted, a third party cannot go and take the data and use it. So encryption is for sending when it's going through the channel. But when I am receiving the data, I am downloading it, I am keeping it on my phone, or I am sending it to somebody else, and then it gets misused. So that is where I am talking about it is not safe. Do you understand? So the encryption which WhatsApp talks about is when the data is being transmitted from one device to the other. No third party can, even if a third party catches hold of the data per se, they will not be able to misuse it because they will not be able to interpret it. Yes?
Yes.
Have I answered your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I think there's another question also, a legal one. One of my friend had recently received a message from someone's account wherein that person mentioned that he's 17 years old, started saying certain highly inappropriate things to her, and we made an attempt to report that particular account. However, does reporting that account really help? And is there any response on or any update? And also, if the person is 17, can any action be taken against him? Now, with this information, I'll just tell you, we don't know whether that person is actually 17. You're telling me that he has mentioned he is 17. So only an investigation will lead to the facts, whether this person is 17 or not, whether it is male or female. Okay, so who is the investigating authority? The cyber cell. You can go to the cyber cell. But of course, it depends on what are those highly inappropriate things that he has said, whether he has said it on the public platform, whether there are some personal messages to that effect, because it would comprise harassment, and harassment is actionable. Okay. Separately, there could be various other sections we could attach which are dealing with harassment, which are dealing with sexual harassment. So this is it. You have to build your case in that sense, and it entirely gets built only on facts. Okay, and reporting, yes, it does help, because a particular I have done some reporting personally also on Twitter, and it does help because they do deactivate that account for 24 hours, and the reactivation of the account is conditional upon that person removing those posts or removing those messages. So in a sense, there is no punishment, but only there is some kind of some kind of negative sanction which the platform itself gives to that person, and then that person removes those posts. And once the posts are removed, then the person can reactivate their account. So in that sense, reporting does help. But if you are looking for restitution in the sense of some kind of punitive action against that person, then it is the job of an investigating agency, which means you have to take your case to an investigating agency. Yes. I hope that clarifies the point.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll go in next. There's a question here by Sabrine who says many times students are evidence cyberbullying happens, and then how to convince our parents. This was a point that I think Seola also mentioned some time back. Yes, that really is a problem. All right, that really is a problem. But then I would like to once again first tell you about the larger picture. See, these problems have always existed in society. Okay, so first of all, don't feel victimized. Don't feel that you are the only person and it's happening to you. I mean, go back to the times of what maybe child marriages to sati systems to whatnot to right now. So every time there was, in every what you could say chunk of history, if you were to pick up, there was always a time when you might refer to as different narratives, as a generation gap, as this and that. But yes, there will always be, like life follows a normal distribution curve. There will be people, most of them clustered at the center. There'll be a few at the right extreme, a few at the left extreme. Okay. Now, the thing is to keep on shifting this curve, these set of values and attitudes that society carries in general to begin with, so that we become a more inclusive society. That is where education comes in. That is where forums like these actually, help. And that is where a lot of newspapers, articles, journalism, there are so many people who are talking about it. So being assertive always comes at a cost. So when you want to be assertive, well, we don't know. I mean, you're talking about cyberbullying. Talk about marriages, broken marriages, where the parents still want the daughter, the girl to hold on, because if she gets a divorce, then, society would probably look down upon them that, you failed as a parent, or your daughter's marriage failed. So maybe it was her fault somewhere. So even in perfectly legal relationships, these things happen. We are talking about cyberbullying, but then as it comes, you could probably involve your school, your teachers, a larger, supportive group of society. So if the parents do not directly relent to, we have so many of these helplines. There are counselors, and then there are teachers. There are, forums in colleges and schools nowadays where they could reach out to parents, because I can very well imagine talking about, it's difficult to stand up and tell your father, something like that in many societies, many homes. So, well, yes, you can always take help of all these forums, all these support groups. So many numbers have been shared over here. There are social workers who will come home literally and talk to your parents. So, well, yes, but I would always suggest stand up to that. The next question also I will take, because I think that was directed towards to me, and then Neha has put up a question as well. That's for Sangeeta ma'am. So problem with relationships is screen is only communication. Has one such experience? Yes, yes, yes. Ramya, I see. There are a couple of things. Once again, I'll draw your attention to. Number one, we always keep on having multiple personalities, don't we? Don't we? Look at yourself when you are at home in front of your parents, what you are in front of your friends, and what you are in the college. You will always find that you are going literally by the word persona, as the word personality that it's drawn from. We always keep on changing our personas time to time. But here you are talking about something different, absolutely a fake personality, something that was deliberately conceived to fool someone with a malicious intent. So having said that, what happens with us is we have been evolved, and why I was talking about this evolutionary perspective here is we have been evolved to take into account so many things, visual cues, especially when you are maybe in the company of a person. Talk about mirror neurons. Nowadays we have chanced upon that. Villanur Ramachandran is one Indian origin person who has worked extensively on that, and you could read some papers about that. Now mirror neurons and all these fire, evolution has given us that, because you have the sense of touch, you have smell, you have visual cues. What happens online is you only probably are chatting away in text boxes and emojis popping up. So there is no way for you to really understand as to who this person really is. One way to deal with that is, and what I usually do, yes, I do also have a Facebook account, by the way. What I usually do is, although I'm not very active there, whenever I get a friend request, first check the list of friends that this person has. And I get so many of these useless requests wherein you have, I would not like to mention that, but typical baits, as I would call them. And then you are immediately able to understand that no, I don't know this person, and I will not allow this person into my social group. How do you meet someone on a completely blind date, sort of a dating site? Well, yes, then that is definitely risky. What I would personally suggest is there have to be background checks before you go to the level of indulging into very personal, physical sort of things online. I would honestly suggest that you have to have a background check over here, because how that can be done? Well, if that person is something like living somewhere in the US or some other place, I don't think a physical relationship in this particular case, can really exist unless that person travels all the way back and stuff like that. Now, the thing is, like you said, online relationships, that's something that is going to stay with us, and you have to take a call. That's something like you toss a coin in the air and you take a 50-50 chance. Don't go by that. Don't go by that. Try to get as many cues as possible. Try to get as much information as possible. In this world, if that person has access to your information, you have access to the other person's information. Before you start a physical type of relationship or start sharing physical photos and stuff like that, I would always suggest that don't go by the face value. Don't go by the face value. That's as simple as I can put it. Yes, I think there are other questions.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I think this was Sangeeta, ma'am. The next question by Neha.
Yeah, ma'am, Sangeeta, there's a question from Neha to you.
This is about the accounts, the different accounts, is it?
No, the one before that.
Yeah, digital. See, basically, this I'm not very sure. Seola can clarify on this about whether legally something of this kind does exist in India. I'm not very sure about it. But
yeah, I'll clarify that point.
Yeah.
Actually, this is not the practice at all.
Yeah.
You might have heard of prenuptial agreements in terms of property.
Give me 1 second. So, and I was talking about proposing the concept actually of a prenuptial thing in terms of, and we are sharing intimate content, but then let's be very clear that if at X point in time we decide to break off, then we need to be very clear about the intimate whatever. We need to have specific guidelines about how to deal with, so how to deal with the intimate data that we have shared. Do we collectively delete it, or we commit saying that it's not going to be, but not going to be misused? Okay, but yes, the legal aspect of it has to be somehow somewhere streamlined. Yeah.
Yeah, and in continuation of that, there's another question which talks about this kind of concern only. Of course, prenuptial agreements now we don't have, and never mind that we hardly even have them for properties before marriage, isn't it? For separation of properties. So anyway, there is another question here which relates to data being stored, data that you at first consent to being captured, but later on is stored on your partner's devices, and then they refuse to delete it after your relationship has ended or at any point during the relationship also. Now, this is actually a major concern, isn't it? This is like the main thing of this entire discussion. And sadly, there is nothing directly you can do, but I'll give you some ideas how you can go about it, okay? One thing is you could start with giving them a legal notice that this is almost comprising of legal advice, but please, there's a disclaimer that you cannot take it as legal advice. But the thing that you can start with is by a legal notice to this person saying that they are in possession of this kind of information or in this kind of data, and that they are not the owners thereof, and therefore you have to be that the same have to be deleted on all platforms and in all devices and in all storage devices. Okay, this kind of a legal notice you can send. I don't know how you will do it, because whether you would really want to approach a lawyer with this problem, but as I told you, you must take somebody in confidence. You cannot sometimes handle things on your own. Okay, so you have to do it with the help of a lawyer. Secondly, what you can do is you can also argue that your consent is now withdrawn. At first you had given consent, now your consent is withdrawn. Remember, this is an arguable concept. This is not settled law. Okay, you can, under the same section 66E, which I had spoken about earlier, you can now say that your consent is withdrawn. So no longer are they legally allowed to hold that information. We have one data protection bill, which is going to come into the picture. And there they are going to deal with ownership of data. But right now, as we stand today, we don't have ownership of data which is definite in terms of legalities. So which is why we're in a gray zone. Okay, now that you are in a gray zone means that you have to argue these matters. Remember that privacy is your paramount right under fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Right to life, Article 21. Right to life has been extended to include right to dignity, right to living in humane conditions, and right to privacy. So they are linking privacy with human rights, with the very fact that you're human means it has to be private. Okay, and reputation is given great importance. So quoting that same article, I would even say you could go for a writ petition before the High Court and ensure that the authorities are able to go to this person's house and delete the pictures. But look, this is a very ambitious thing I'm talking about. Okay, you may not be able, you may not have the resources to do this, and you may also not have the motivation, I can't be sure. But if you are very serious about it, then I'd say be ambitious and be very, very dominant in your legal action. You cannot have half-hearted legal action. So this is something you can do. It's in a gray area. That's all I can tell you for now.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
I think I'm taking the last question. That's
Yes.
Naya.
Yeah.
So this is about making different accounts, right? So when your accounts are different, you can actually maybe link one account to your existing email ID, and then maybe another one to your another phone number, and then keep them separate. You can there is no reason why there should be a transfer of data between one and the other. And then there could be a child account and a parent account, and then and you don't share data or username password of the parent account, but maybe of the child account which you have created by using that parent account, that you can share This I am specifically talking in terms of sharing information. If you just have one account wherein you have your work data also and your personal data also, and you share the password with your partner, okay, then the entire information is there available with him or her, okay. So from that perspective, that's one. And secondly, in terms of if you are talking about interacting with third parties for downloading stuff and all that, or for any other kind of use, then that account, there is clear separation of accounts. Until and unless you specifically link them, they can be completely separate accounts. Only thing is that you'll have to separately log into each of the accounts and look at the content, right? But if you want, you can merge them together and then keep one parent account and one child account, and then don't give access to the parent account to anybody. Yeah. Just one thing I want to add is, Neha, this is for Neha. Yes, online like virtual relationships or the social media and all these other tools have created beautiful relationships. In fact, have created social movements, have created a lot of Good Samaritan kind of work, have created lots of groups which are doing very lot of positive work. Yes, but the reason why we are talking about these dangers is, yes, positive things are there, and we all take advantage of those positive things, but always keep these negative things also somewhere in the background. When you go flown with your emotions, don't totally go and flow with your emotions. Just keep a set of things in the background. Again, I'm talking about expanding the scope of understanding of this realm of cyberspace, right? So from that perspective, the worries and the concerns is what we are raising, and then we are giving precautions. We are giving alarm signals with reference to precautions to be taken, right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that was our last question for the discussion today. That was indeed a very engaging and informative discussion, and I thank all the speakers for patiently answering all the questions and sharing their thoughts on various issues. To cover everything that we discussed today, I now request Rail Suto, a second-year student of the Department of Psychology, to present a brief report highlighting the points that were discussed during the discussion forum.
Good morning, everyone. The Department of Psychology of Parvatibai Chowgule College of Arts and Science Autonomous held a discussion forum on December 12, 2020 on the topic hashtag downloading relationships, navigating through private affairs. The event was hosted by Ramya Varya of TYBA. The event started with an address from the department head, Dr. Sobita Kirtani. In the address, she brought light to the fact that technology helped us, especially in the time of lockdown, and how technology plays an important role in the building of relationships and communication. However, a need for maintaining privacy is required. After a general discussion on the proceedings of the forum, faculty member Ms. Tanya Kenny introduced us to our first speaker, Dr. Vilas Padhye, Associate Professor of the Department of Psychology at Ecclestone College, Mumbai. Dr. Vilas addressed the gathering on the psychological aspect of the issue. He shed light on the areas affected by online relationships and reflected on the archetypes of Carl Jung and our need to experience a kind of thrill and how it applies to human relationships while posing the question why we need them in the first place. The simple answer from an evolutionary perspective is how association and relationships in particular help us survive. He carried on by speaking on the neurological perspective of how we know we are in love and how it is as simple as experiencing dopamine, and oxytocin shots. He goes on to pose the question, are we fully equipped to handle the online shift to relationships, and how the human brain is not fully equipped to understand the situations and dangers on the internet due to the newness of the internet as a whole, and how it provides a false sense of security and blurring of realities. And since our emotions are fully online, we tend to rely on it but not understand it fully. He goes on to introduce us to simulacrum, where we create new realities and choose the ones which suit us best. And the only way we can deal with it is through expanding our scope of understanding and how through the internet people with low self-esteem find a new altered personality online. Thus, we have to establish rules for ourselves to protect ourselves from falling prey on the internet. This was followed by faculty member Dr. Golda Vaz introducing the second speaker, Ms. Sangeeta Naik, an IT professional, speaking on the technical aspects of online relationships. She posed the question, how secure is it on the internet, while drawing similarities to moving through a crowd in these COVID times, and what precautions must be taken in the cyberspace, and if any issues take place, how to deal with them. Thus, we ought to know the dangers and take necessary precautions and follow guidelines. Ms. Naik went on to propose the question and question our vulnerability in information that we share online that we assume is one-to-one communication when unwittingly we reach out to thousands of people. She goes on to illustrate with the help of infographics what happens in an internet minute and how it adds to the data that is sent through the internet and the growth of social media users and how we leave a digital footprint through these activities we conduct online and how it remains on the internet. Thus, we must be conscious about this digital footprint, especially in instances like job applications and college administrations, which tend to take notice of our online activities. She goes on to give us tips on how to maintain the separation from professional and online personas. She goes on to shed light on our connections to known and unknown people and how stranger danger plays a major role in online problems, followed by the general do's and don'ts of being online. Ma'am goes on to explain these people, the problems associated with relationships with known people by sharing a statistical study on the digital footprint of couples and the instances of a fallout with these couples. Ma'am concluded by giving us a general outlook of the crimes that take place online and how to deal with the situations when they occur. Finally, faculty member Ms. Aishwarya M. Babu introduced our last speaker, Advocate Seola Vas, who spoke on the legal aspects of the issue. She goes on to explain the general presumption of not blaming the victim and how they are not complicit in the actions. She acknowledges the need for self-expression in online relationships and explains the offenses that occur and how to deal with these offenses like non-consensual videography and the protection of Section 66E against publication of obscene material, child porn, etc., and how a guarantee of compensation is in place of restitution. Ma'am goes on to provide the legal definition of privacy as well as other terms in cyber and relationship space such as consent, private distribution under the law. She continues to explain the sections of 67 and 67A and the leaking or dissemination of obscene material in electronic form and the legal definition of obscene material. Ma'am goes on to explain the exemption of intermediaries from prosecution and the protection under the Indian Penal Code, with the circumstances in which you are protected under the law against instances of criminal intimidation, harassment to children under the age of 18. Finally, ma'am explains the need for people to take action once they are informed of these laws and regulations and understand that they are protected under the law and law enforcement are under duty to follow these proceedings and how to have courage to stand up for yourself in these situations. After this, the host declared the forum open for discussion. where we had a healthy discussion in terms of online relationships and the problems associated with it. Through the discussion, we learned about the advantages of online relationships, how the cyber cell can act, the privacy between spouses, the protection of encrypted data, cyberbullying, and the concept of a digital prenup, usage of different accounts, and the coverage of law in terms of consent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Ms. Tanya Kenny will now be sharing the link to the feedback form for this event. Kindly fill it out as your feedback is very valuable to us. Your e-certificates will be sent to you once you have submitted the feedback form. Before we move to the end of today's session, I request Dr. Golda Vas to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Ramya. Good afternoon once again to all of you. Well, the most beautiful and amazing thing in this world is acknowledging, appreciating, and thanking all of the individuals who've helped in the best way they could to make an event a success. And I am delighted to have been honored with the opportunity to propose the vote of thanks. I, Dr. Golda Vas, on behalf of the Department of Psychology at Parvatibai Chowgule College of Arts and Science Autonomous, express my sincere gratitude to our respectable speakers for sharing with us their views and opinions despite their busy schedule. I also wish to extend my gratitude to our officiating principal, Dr. Shaila Ghanti, and the management for their monumental encouragement and cooperation to organize this event. I deeply appreciate the presence of faculty and students of the department of the different colleges who made it possible to attend this event this year and who do so religiously every year. I sincerely thank the teaching and non-teaching staff of our college who also made it possible to attend this event. Thanks to the Psychology Forum, which is a body of student representatives of the department. Thank you for all your involvement and willingness for completing on time every task assigned to you. A big thank you to our dear students for showing your love and support to us by attending the event, even though it was declared a government holiday today. A special thanks to Ms. Sabrine for designing the lovely poster and certificates, Mr. Rai for preparing and presenting the report of the discussion forum, and to Ms. Ramya for comparing the event with poise and grace. Once again, thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With that, we come to the end of Discussion Forum 2020, and I hope that it was an enriching experience for all of you. The recording of this whole session will be uploaded on the college YouTube channel, so you can access it there. I, Ramya, your compere for today, would like to leave you with these final words that in the era of virtual romance, loving blindly can be dangerous. So love, but love with your eyes wide open. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely day ahead.